So while waiting for Lee to come in, if we can do how about minutes? What did you have then, Bill, I think I didn't have anything,
Yeah, yeah.
on those minutes other
I
than
didn't
that.
yeah, I didn't have a chance to review them, Dick. I'm sure if you reviewed them, they're fine. No problem.
Okay. Then all I did actually, the only change I made was to make sure that Colleen said this meeting would be on a virtual meeting.
Right.
That Colleen's time sheet, which is a 70-hour time sheet for the 2 weeks. Are you okay with that one, Bill?
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
I am too, Colleen, so that's approved.
Okay. Okay.
The next one is for payments to the treasurer, $955 for these 2 weeks. And of that, the whole 955 is for Board of Health permit. Are you okay with that one, Bill?
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
I am too.
Okay.
The next one that we have is it's a COC, and it's for 195 Bachelor Street. And when I look at it, it was for a new pump system, but I don't see any elevations whatsoever on it.
Who's the designer, Dick?
I think it's Neil Jackson. Let's see if I can find it. Colleen, do you know if this is
Let's see.
Bob LeMay? So that means it's Bobby Sheehan.
Okay.
Okay.
But maybe it says in it that it's installed to the drawing. I'm just trying to see.
It says, let's see.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
It says elevations of leaching facility as per approved septic system design drawing, and so he does. He's saying that it was installed to the drawing. So I guess he is saying that he's got that.
Okay.
So are we okay with that one, Bill?
Yeah, that's fine.
I am too, Colleen. So that
Okay.
one's approved.
Okay.
Next one is a temporary food license for Friends of the Granby Veterans. And the event is May 31st at Dufresne in the pavilion. Actually, Mike Pandora, like Mike still hangs in there and works with that group.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this one, Bill. Are you?
Yeah, that's fine, Dick. What community does Mike live in these days?
Do you
He
know?
He lives in Northampton.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in Northampton. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In fact, it says that in Florence, Mass.
Florence. Okay. Yeah. Thought it was.
Yeah,
Florence.
that's part of Northampton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that one is approved also, Colleen.
Okay.
I've got one. This is a well permit for 31 Cold Hill Drive. Now, I believe that's Marty Merrill's old house. And that one
That's right.
is an approved drawing, a design, and it's a narrow lot. And to try to put everything in there, the well to the SAS is only 88 feet. So that one, we did have to give a variance. However, when I talked to the well guys, Bill, about this kind of well that's too close to an SAS, the well guys that really know what they're doing do separate and special pacing in field work. If they do special stuff to make sure that it can't leak through into the lower level.
Yeah,
And I don't,
they'll use a bentonite clay-based slurry as a sealer. That's right, exactly.
but my feeling would be we should be talking to these people. They should make an appointment to talk to us about what they're going to do about this, because it definitely doesn't say anything on the permit that they're going to do anything special at all. And in fact, this is for Quabbin Well, and I'm not sure Quabbin Well installs well.
Not that I know of. But Dick, that's a good point. When we have a well that's non-compliant that needs a variance, we should have the designer write a specification up for the construction of the well. That's a really good idea.
So Colleen, it looks like what we're going to do is not approve this and have the applicant come in and talk to us about what they're going to do, put this well in special to deal with the proximity to the septic system.
Okay.
The next one that I have is, well, that's into your list of things to discuss. I'm trying to go
Lee's here
tonight.
now.
Lee is here now?
Yep, I'm in.
Lee's
Hi, Lee.
here. Hello, Lee.
Good evening.
So I'm trying to take it easy tonight. I had a tooth yanked out or root ripped out today, and my mouth isn't good for talking. So if that's the case, we ought to get back, since those things are approved. We had looked at item for the local upgrades to Title V inspections. We didn't finish. We had 3 things that we said we were going to get to put that to sleep. And I'll tell you what they were. Is one of them was 2 feet, not 3 feet to the water table. Another was 100 feet to wetland, and then 100 feet to wells. And I think we closed on the wells, saying that if it could be, we would like it to be the 100 feet, and that if it had to be less than 100 feet, it would be for a reason, but not ever get less than the 50 feet. I think that's what we closed on last meeting. But maybe the next one, Bill, is one definitely you were going to look at. Currently, we're saying that the septic system can't be, and we said, and we should define what septic system means. I think it means SAS, but we currently say it's 100 feet to a jurisdictional wetland. Now, Bill, that's definitely in your world, versus code that says 50 feet. So do you do things like say the distance is dependent on the soil, or do you throw it away completely and go with the state code of 50 feet?
Here's what I've done, Dick. I've reviewed probably 25 codes from around the country over the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
Every single one of them is 50 feet. Every single one of them.
Really?
However, here's the problem. It's a chicken or egg problem. When you guys do a perk test, have you had a certified wetland scientist delineate the wetland prior to doing the perk tests, or you're just kind of winging it?
When I do it, yeah, because it's going to be it'll be always nuisance, because there's leaves going out and dealing with repairs. So it's me.
No. But I mean, when we do, here's the problem, Dick. is it prudent to do the wetland delineation prior to the perk test or the wetland delineation after the perk test? Because here's the way this would play out. If you're going to do the wetland delineation after the perk test, keeping the 100-foot setback makes sense because that gives you a factor of safety as to the exact call line of the delineation. However, if you're getting the wetland delineated and approved by conservation prior to the perk test, then it's going to be essentially vetted by the commission. And then if we use a 50-foot setback, that's absolutely no problem at all because you know the line is really the line. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Usually if it's questionable, then I would say to the engineer, before this thing gets approved, we're going to have to get the wetlands done.
That's right.
That's
And then come to the commission for an RDA as a minimum. That's right.
Right. So you're right. You could easily end up that when I'm looking at a perk, I can't tell where we are.
Yeah, because again, the best way to do wetland delineation is by hydric soils, Dick. So that means you'd have to have a guy go in there with a hand auger and spend a couple of hours with a hand auger when you guys are trying to run the perk test. You see? It's kind of I've grappled with this for 25 years. You know, one school of thought is you should do the wetland delineation before you perk the lot. The second school of thought is perk the lot and then do the wetland delineation afterwards.
And in reality, Bill, depending on what the lot is, you can end up spending a ton of money doing wetlands where a lot of times the guys like an Alan Weiss kind of knows where the wetlands are. He can kind of wing it. So the way we would typically do it now, if it's obvious that it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. But if it's not, then and if we're going to change this, maybe that's exactly what you have to say. What you're talking about, Bill, is to say, hey guys, we just let you move a lot closer. That in the past, if you look at the wetlands people and say, it was 85 feet, not 100. That's different than saying, it's now 35 feet, not 50. That 15
right.
feet makes a huge
But
difference.
if you're the developer and you want to save some money, you'd be prudent to say, well, let's keep it 100 feet, and I'll spend the money on the wetlands if I develop and sell the property. You see?
Yeah.
But if it's a tight sneakers lot and they need every square foot to get a house and a septic system in, it might behoove them to go with a 50-foot setback right off the bat, but have the wetland line vetted by the commission at that time.
Yeah.
See? So there's two ways to look at it. If they got plenty of room, I'd go with 100 feet. But if they really want to go with the 50 feet, that's fine. But again, we're going to be a little more picky as to how that gets accomplished. That's my thought.
Maybe we do the same thing that we just did with the well, saying we still want to not use that extra 50 feet up. But if you're going to use it, then you're going to have to spend the money to make sure it's really where it is.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. And that gives them the choice.
So we just don't give it up, but we let them have it if they need it.
Right.
What are you thinking, Lee?
No, that makes perfect sense. As I'm hearing you guys kick it back and forth, in that fashion, we're getting the best of both worlds.
Most of the time, this isn't a problem. most of the time. So if that's the case, then we just deal with it and say we're going to deal with it by acceptance. That we've got a policy, but we've got something to work around it. Okay. The next one, Bill, after you fed us all this stuff about the sludge in the ground and the the biomass doing all the work of the septic system and not really getting any treatment beyond 18 inches. Now our view of, since it's one of the regulations, our view of saying we've got to have 3-foot separation, my suggestion would be that after reading all that stuff, 2 feet would be more appropriate.
Now, did you read the Connecticut? I sent 3 pages out, excerpts from the Connecticut code. Did you look at those?
That was crazy. That I can't believe anybody does a perk test in Connecticut about throwing clays and coming back, and you can.
Oh, I know, but let me give you a little bit of historical insight. Those Connecticut offset distances were written in the early 1980s. They're still in effect today. The Massachusetts, the 95 code revision, the big Title V revision was done in the early to mid 1990s. If you look at the Connecticut numbers and the Massachusetts numbers, they're all a multiple of each other. It's really weird. For instance, the slope angle in Connecticut is a 2-to-1 slope. That's permitted. Massachusetts is a 3-to-1 slope.
Right.
The pea stone to breakout distance in Connecticut is 10 feet. In Mass, it's 15 feet. The critical perk rate in Mass is 2 minutes per inch, right? 2 minutes per inch. We have to have the extra foot. In Connecticut, it's 1 minute per inch. And of course, the water table in Connecticut's been 18 inches for 40 years. In Mass, it's 4 feet, but originally it was 3 feet. And then for one reason or another, it got bumped to 4 feet. But the point is, it seems to me as though whoever developed the Mass code may have looked at the Connecticut code and just applied a multiplier factor. It really looks like that, Dick, if you look at it. Just saying.
My feeling
anyway,
yeah,
go ahead.
My feeling is that there's at least spots in the Massachusetts regulation that allowed the board to go down to a 2-foot separation. And the stuff that you put out seemed to say that 2 feet would be safe.
Well, that was Sangre's. That was his paper based on the lysimeter tests in 2005. That's right. That's right. I'm going to go out on a limb and go a little bit more aggressive than that. I'm going to recommend on existing systems. This is not new construction. This is not repairs. These are existing systems that have been in the ground, have well-developed biomats, been running for a number of years. Got to remember, 2 years ago, we're at 0. We're at 0 inches for a pass. I recommend we bump that up to a full 18 inches for existing leach fields when we do Title V inspections. It's not going to affect many people, but it might save people a lot of money on an upgrade. But it's not going to affect too many.
If you look at it, Bill, though, it's going to only be really old systems that really should have been replaced.
Oh, yeah. Listen, Dick, if it's an old system, they're going to be putting in a new tank at the very least. They're going to be putting in a new septic tank.
Yeah.
And when they put in the new septic tank, it's going to be a 2-compartment tank likely with an effluent filter, so they're going to get that benefit as well. I don't
My
think any
concern is
system,
how do you determine water table that you're really feeling good at? That's, you know, the literature that you handed out, you know, it really says that if you're a foot, it's probably not going to work. 18 inches it is, but you're in a spot that if you can't tell water table within a few inches, you're in a spot that you can't say that the system's working right, versus if you said, let's add a couple more inches onto this thing, and then we're pretty sure if we're off a little on water table, we still have a good system.
again, I think those water tables are supposed to be, or would be called by a certified soil evaluator right off the bat, with a vetting review by our board. So Lee would be out there watching the soil evaluator. And again, 18 inches in my mind is sufficient, given the fact it's been the standard in Connecticut for 45 years with apparently no ill effects. And again, it would just apply to existing systems in the community. Again, that's just my take on what I've read and researched over the past few months.
Lee, where are you headed on this one? My feeling is I can support the 18 inches being the number. The question is, do we want to make it that tight that we're saying, yeah, 18 works, but 16 doesn't, and we're accurate to better than that?
Well, that's again, any number that we pick, we're going to have a gray area that's going to be subject to interpretation. But I think 18 inches is a proven number. It's a proven number that's been in practice for many, many years. And again, like you say, Dick, if it's 16 inches and you can substantiate the 16-inch number in the field, sorry, that's the way it goes.
Well,
But
Lee, this is going to be
we have to draw a line in the sand, and 18 inches is a good line, in my opinion.
Lee, from your standpoint, you're the guy that's going to be doing this, and it means that now I'm at the point, Bill, if you're gonna do that, then I would be saying somebody, a soil evaluator, if you're going to call it at 18 inches, it ought to be right near the leaching facility, and it can't be something that you said, oh yeah, soil evaluator looked at that 20 years ago, so now I'm comfortable with it.
Well, again, if the system were built 20 years ago, it would have been built in accordance with the 95 code,
Right.
and it should have 3 or 4 or 5 feet of separation, so it should be okay. These systems, Dick, that we're concerned about are the ones built prior to 95.
Right.
So having a fresh soil evaluation is a really good idea.
So how could we?
So are we
What if
saying theoretically, in theory, that prior to 95, the groundwater all could be quite a bit higher prior to 95 than after 95? The new construction, for the most part, the repair for the Title V's, are people buying, as you guys know, they buy a house and within 6 years make a couple changes, maybe an upgrade on a new roof, whatever, and they're out of here. There's not many houses that I personally am on site that have systems that were put in the mid 70s, mid 80s. Couple, but not many.
Right. And the longer we go, the fewer there are.
Correct.
I could go along. I could go along with something that says if the water table separation's less than 4 feet, then you need a new soil evaluation. Or if you said it's less than 3 feet, you need a new soil evaluation. At this point, then you can let it go to 18 inches. So I could support the 18 inches if you knew that someone looked at it recently.
Well, yeah, it's got to be a first-class soil evaluation, Dick. You're right. I agree 100% there.
Yeah, that makes sense all the way around.
So let's do it that way. Let's say if it's less than 4 feet separation, it needs a soil evaluation associated with this Title V. And then it can be as little as 18 inches.
But Dick, how do you determine whether it's less than 4 feet?
Well, they've got some
By the
other,
plans? By the plans?
you could do it by the plans. You could, remember, Title V gives the people, we've already said though,
Yeah, because
we've
remember,
already
we used
said
to
that all of them have to have.
We used to approve 3-foot separations very, very frequently years ago. Very frequently.
Not on new ones,
No, I mean
the
on
only one-
repairs.
on repair, yeah.
On repairs, yes,
Right.
yes.
But we've already said that the water table's got to be done by a soil evaluator. That's part of our thing.
Right.
So if that's
Right.
the case, Bill, then I can go along with that. I could go along with 18 inches.
Okay.
Lee, can you?
Yes. Given,
And again, what's going to happen is I'm sure these folks aren't going to have 1,500-gallon tanks. So they're going to be putting in fresh tanks, 2-compartment tanks, likely with a filter,
Yeah.
which is great.
Are you interested in an outside opinion?
Not at
Yeah,
this
you
time,
can.
Al.
It's a short one because we're
Okay,
all getting
that's
ready to
fine.
leave.
No, go ahead. Just a quick one, Al.
Well, my advice would be to go the way that most towns go, which is to have a soil evaluator from, and I know this is a touchy subject, from the Board of Health present to agree or deny with somebody who's on the private side representing the customer. You can do whatever you want, and I understand your comfort level is better or worse as you approach some situations, but that puts them in a more legal, substantial situation, and that's why they do it that way.
Well, we're
And
going to
I-
end up with that anyways, Alan.
Yeah, okay. I fully respect all of you coming out because I've worked with all of you. So I'm just saying, from a legal standpoint, that helps the other towns when they do it that way.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Okay, then
well,
that's
that's a good point, Al, because there is some arm twisting when the soil evaluator represents the developer.
Mhm.
Of course,
move
the
things a different way,
private soil
obviously.
evaluator he knows or she knows which side of the bread it's buttered on. Of course. You need an
Absolutely.
independent third party, and that's why you bring the Board of Health person in as an independent third party. Absolutely.
And I say that from both sides. I've been on both sides.
Right, that's right. Okay.
okay. Then
So Dick,
let
do you want to
me-
make a motion on this?
Yeah, well, we're still going along on the thing. So, Colleen, that's what we're saying. We've moved that one to 18, and we've said that the 100 feet we're going to try to to do, but we'll go down to the 50. It looks like the well is the same, that
What-
we said the same thing.
Dick, what are you on? Are you on, you're not on the local, the ones you did last time, local upgrades? to ti-
Well, that was part of, that's where it was. We're dealing with the one that was titled local upgrades to Title V inspection.
Okay, yeah, okay. But, and what number was
There
it?
wasn't a number. That was
Oh.
those were two of mine that we
Yep.
never got through.
Okay, well, I mean, I had
We'll have
from
to
last
go-
time, I mean, I think you had started out with 8 things on that one.
Yeah. I can go over. We can redo that, the
Okay.
one, the way I think we have it, and then we can see if we can all agree with that.
Okay.
Next time, and maybe
Okay.
that group will get done.
Okay, okay, got it.
Next, before we go, what are we doing for next meeting? Are we doing the same thing? 6:45 and
Well, Dick, what further line items do we have to discuss
we have about
next
6
week?
pages.
Oh, boy.
You know what we could do? Let's let Colleen, I'll work with Colleen, let's get a new list. Let me go through the ones on the other pages that I know are duplicates of Title V. And let's see if we can get kind of through our list next time.
Okay. Because like you say, I think at some point, now that the weather's getting nice, it'd be nice to go back to 7 o'clock at some point.
So why don't we do this one more time?
Okay.
And when is our next meeting? So tomorrow,
The
so what
22nd,
is it, the 22nd?
that's Tuesday, yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go. The only review we've got today is for 12 Ken Lane. It's Alan to repair a complete system. It is a 2-bedroom house that Alan and the owner have chosen to do a 3-bedroom design. Fee is paid. Review is complete. It's mainly a cleared 0.4 acre lot, deep sands, a 24-inch water table. The issues is a small lot, the water table, the well proximity, and there's not enough space for trenches. The design is for a new 1,500 gallon 2-compartment tank with an outlet filter, a 1,000-gallon pump chamber with a single pump and required controls, alarms, and dedicated circuits, a 12 by 50 bed, vented, plastic seat barriers on the east and west sides, the long sides of the SAS due to the reduced breakout distance. That conserve space a little bit to push back from the well as far as we can. 444 gallons a day are provided versus 440 required. Fill is required. Building outlet plumbing must be raised. The reserve area is not provided. 5-foot water table separation is provided. Ballast is not required for either the tank or the pump chamber. But a pump crush and fill the existing tank. The SAS separation is only 93 feet, so a variance is required for that. The septic tank and the SAS's separations, all the other wells and the wetland, everything is more than 100 feet other than this system, this SAS, and actually also so this SAS is 93 feet to its well. And the well to the septic tank and pump chamber separation is about 857 feet. So it discusses there's a trench permit required, fill is required, plumbing permit is required, electrical permit is required. And I sent out, along with my review, so Colleen also sent out an electronic copy. But I don't see that Alan could do a lot more with this lot than he did. this well is a deep well. What are you, Bill and Lee, what are your thoughts?
I think he's done as well as he could, Dick.
Yeah. I don't see anything that we can tweak on this at all.
No, I don't either. So we would have to grant the well separation variance. The
Yep.
the other thing that I asked Colleen to mention to the owner, and I guess that Alan as well, is that I did talk to Chris Martin. I actually talked to Chris Martin about the emergency provisions, not this, but what Colleen had asked us at the last meeting, and Chris asked that she send them a copy of the questions that Colleen was trying to get answered. But Chris told me that the new permanent replacement for him will be starting at the beginning of June. So that if there's any talk, Alan, about your client trying to get a low interest loan
Mhm.
from the town, there's probably some urgency to try to get that thing all tied up before Chris leaves.
I've heard nothing more about it other than her original interest in trying to find alternative methods for financing.
Yeah.
I did
I'll
email
let her
her.
know when I do speak to her next, though, about that.
Al,
I
have you
did.
priced out the system yet?
I can't speak to that. I think Josh Fugler may have at this point. I don't know if John's on this call, but yeah.
Okay.
Gentlemen,
Okay.
I'm on this call. This is Diane Percy.
Oh, hi, Diane. How are you?
I'm well tonight. Thank you.
So I don't know if you heard what I just said. Colleen was just ready to tell us that she reached out, but if you are thinking about going through the town, my thoughts when I talked to Colleen would be that trying to deal with Chris Martin, who's done this at least on several occasions, is probably going to be an easier thing to do than try to deal with someone who's brand new in the job. And so if you're thinking about it at all, maybe even if you're not thinking about it or haven't thought about it, it might be worth giving Chris a call and just seeing what he has to say.
Yes, I'll be glad to do that.
Yeah. I do know what he will be asking you for. He will be asking you for a price.
And I do
he-
have a price. I have a price
Okay.
from Josh.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, I do.
I do not want to hear it.
Yeah, but
Please,
That's good.
I would
I don't wanna hear
behoove
it
you,
either.
Diane. I would behoove you to get two more prices. Have three prices when you approach Mr. Martin.
however, I think with one price, you can probably get whatever is going to go in the works. You probably can get moving. At least, he has something that you'd be working on. He probably is going to ask you, at least what he's told me in the past, is that he asked someone if they in fact need it, because he tries to set this up with people who need this and who are financially strapped. And that definition, I think, is loose. And the other is that he would be talking about an interest rate, and he typically would ask, how long would you like it to take to pay it back? So that before you go in and talk to him, and give that, some thoughts. And then in the past, he's told me that the interest rates are typically like 1%. So at least you would go into Chris knowing kind of what he's going to be asking you.
I have two things to add if I could.
Sure.
I'd be happy to give you some other names for other quotes, first of all. we can do that tomorrow. And secondly, I strongly urge you to also try the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. They have had some money in the past that doesn't necessarily even require payback, depending on your plans to stay at the property and other requirements.
So, who am I, are you speaking, Alan?
That is Alan speaking.
Okay, all right. Let me just ask you this question then. If I were to get 2 other quotes, does that mean I have to pay 2 more engineers?
Nope. No, it's about getting quotes for the installation. So it's just the contractor side.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did misunderstand that.
Yeah, and we
Okay.
can talk about that.
All right, why don't we do that? Thank you.
So that's what we have for
Right.
that system. So Alan,
Okay.
it looks like we're set with you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay,
Good
bye-bye,
night.
Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Diane, good luck. Good to hear you. Thank you.
Yep,
Good night,
Thank you.
Diane.
thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
We've got 4 Title Vs. One is at 86 Morgan Street by Toretti, and that passed. That one had a 1,500-gallon tank and more than 4-foot separation. 74 Aldrich Street was a fail and looked like a bad tank and bad system. I drove by that. Lee, did you look at that system?
I did, yes.
That although they said that was I think a 1978 system, it may be older than that. That one was Art Chase built that house, and he was the principal of the high school. So that could be late. That it could be maybe 1960, but maybe 78 was a repair. But I don't
maybe.
think there's much soil in that area.
No.
70,
No,
what is it, 74 Aldridge, Dick?
Yeah, if you come.
Oh, it's near the newspaper man's house.
No, if you come from that side, from Aldrich Street,
go up quarter,
go across Amherst Street,
yeah.
and you're on a little flat area, and then it curves to the right. This is a house. That's the first house on your left.
Oh,
Tucked
okay.
right into that ledge, those outcroppings.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you leave, if you do go back there, as you look at that house, I don't know if it's even on the property, but to the very front right, up next to the road, on the other side of that driveway, on the neighbor's driveway, there's a bunch of sand in that little spot. And then I have no idea where the property goes to, but if you go on the left side of the house, at the base of those outcroppings, there's about 10 feet of sand. In a little spot, those outcroppings go straight down in the ground and tuck right up into that sand, up to those rocks or sand.
Okay, because, yeah, you're right. Robert Weasel, the neighbor facing his house to the right, his new SAS is right off of Aldrich Street. This particular piece of property, his well is in the back left corner.
Oh, okay.
So that could affect that pocket of sand that you referred to on the left-hand side looking at the house. So when they ran out the camera, they had about 18 or 20 feet of line, and as we walked out on Aldrich Street looking back at that property, the only thing that we were looking at was a face of ledge across the entire area.
Yeah.
So it was on a very narrow piece.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
again, you're probably looking at 50-odd years, 60-odd years of use.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the site right now on Google Earth, and he's got some lawn behind the house and a little bit of lawn in front of the house,
Yeah.
but not
Yes.
much lawn in general on that property. I can see it's a
No.
tight,
No, it is tight.
very tight fit.
So
Yeah, I think Neil
Anyway,
is supposed to be up there this coming Thursday or Friday, I believe.
Mhm.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is 505 East State Street, Northern Nathan Toretti again. This one conditional pass. It's got a bad septic tank apparently,
That's correct.
but it has groundwater separation. The final one was 539 Amherst Road. That was an Alan Weiss reinspection, just saying that property's been used. That's got a new septic tank and it reused the 500-gallon leach pit, and it said that it was fine. There was no water in the pit and the tank was filled. So are we going to accept all of these?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything that you spoke of is exactly what I witnessed. Yep.
Okay. Then I accept it too, Colleen. That's accepted. Before we go a lot further, maybe we can put to bed the Carver Street on Colleen, what is the one that I'm looking for? That I'm talking about Pete Wilson,
Oh, yeah,
one
the
on
Lions,
not
yeah,
Carver,
Lot
I'm
B,
sorry, it's Lion Street.
yeah, Lot B Lions, yeah.
Lot B, Lion Street. That one, I talked to Neil Jackson tonight. That one apparently is not as bad as we thought. It's a thing that Bob Stover designed and Paul Seisbeck signed off on it. He's the one with the stamp. It ended up that we required that a water table test be done because they regraded the property. And what Neil went in and did, I witnessed the water table. The water table's fine. It's far down in the ground. Neil sent the drawing out, but Bob Colleen had a hard time trying to get Bob. I don't know whether motivated or at least to generate a modified drawing with Neil's data on it, and then Bob let I guess Neil know that the engineer was in the hospital with an operation, and so we've got a mess involved with the system, but the owner is trying to install the system this week.
This week,
He's
yeah.
going away on vacation. He doesn't need to move into it. And then his brother is also a builder working with him on him, and he's going on vacation right after that. So if he misses this window to install it, then he loses a month or a month and a half. And I was trying to find a way to get the thing resolved that the data be on Neil's data get on the drawing, and it looked like that couldn't happen. However, Neil just told me, he said, guys, there was a drawing that got moved, and the problem with the drawing was that Bob dropped the SAS deeper than his holes supported, and you guys required that new deep holes be done to verify that there was soil there. And Neil said, look at it, I did that. That's what you guys required. You had already approved the design. It's just that you didn't approve it to go deep enough because there wasn't the supporting soil data. And Neil sent a note out that I saw today. It went to, I guess, all of us, and saying it's no problem. It can go in the way it's designed and that you guys approve. So after listening to what Neil said, it sounds like we're safe to let this guy put the system in.
Dick, what's the
Well,
address?
So
It's
does
lot,
Neil,
it's lot
was
two
Neil out
Lion
there with
Street.
I kind
Oh,
of,
so
I was
it's
out there.
one of the Naraki properties.
Yes,
I
yes,
think I was out
If you-
there 2.5 or 3 years ago.
yeah.
Now,
Long time.
this is the one that fell out of the 60,000 square foot well protection area, correct?
Yeah, and then they did something. They changed the number. Oh no, it was. It turns out from the bedrooms were okay. It's only when we threw in the extra size of the leach field that it kicked them out. But they were okay. They were safe
Okay.
with that.
Okay, okay.
So was Neil out there with a piece of equipment to verify and really clarify this confusion, or
Yeah. What
was?
happened, Lee, is I actually got in the middle of this thing and said, we shouldn't be doing this, but if I were in this mess, I'd like someone to try to help me. So what I ended up saying is to try not to get anybody stamped crossed and get other engineers involved. I said, if Neil can shoot grades, since I'm the one that witnessed the holes with Neil, and Neil's
Yep.
licensed to do the soil evaluation, if he can go and shoot the grades to say, here's what the bottom of the hole is that I saw, and compare it to what the SAS design was. If you just say that we've seen that, the soil evaluator seen that he's more than 5 feet below the bottom of the SAS. Since Neil has got the stamp that's the soil evaluator, he could send a thing saying, I witnessed that it is. And that's what he did.
Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. I just get concerned when there's too many chiefs crisscrossing
Absolutely. And
data on a brand new site.
Yeah. And for
Don't want it
For
to
what-
go south.
I guess the lesson that I learned is on any of these designers, and I guess the ones that we know that we're dealing with now, we deal with Neil, who designs systems and has another engineer stamp it. We got Bob Stover, who designs systems and having another engineer stamp it. We've got Bob Sheehan that designs systems and has another engineer that stamps it. That the lesson that I learned, that the pain that I went through trying to get this thing straightened out, is that I guess that when an engineer stamps a drawing, we really ought to be saying, hey, that's really your design. That's not somebody else's design. That's yours. It's your stamp and your design, and you better be ready to defend it.
Dick, that's why it might be prudent to actually interview or talk to the guy that stamped the plan once in a while.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Bill. That
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that we
that's a
get
good idea.
stuff that saying if you've got a drawing that's coming from the board, then you ought to be here to explain what the drawing says, not
That is correct.
Especially in this format where he can do it in the comfort of his office, living room, whatever, without
right.
driving one way for 45 minutes to give us a 5-minute speech and then drive 45 minutes home.
Yeah.
It couldn't be any easier in this format right now.
Yeah. So that's a lesson that sounds like we're all saying the same thing. If it's your stamp on the drawing, then you come in and defend your system, and that I shouldn't be. You know, when I do design reviews, I really should be doing design reviews with those engineers, not with somebody else.
Do we have any idea when the original work on this thing was done?
Uh, my guess, my guess is that it's probably a few years old.
Dick, this is Pete Wilson. I've got the approved plan in front of me, and it looks like you were out there with Alan Weiss in the spring of 23, sorry, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's only a couple years.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty fresh. Okay, all right, thank you.
But I'm sure that Pete is here right now, the owner. I'm sure we've had a few conversations. I'm I'm speaking for you, Pete, but if it were me, I'd be saying, God, I wish I would have been dealing with the engineer that was one person that was in charge of everything.
No, this is true. You make an excellent point, Dick. And the other board members, I think, are open to that because I did reach out to Paul last fall, as I told you, Dick, and he was just indifferent. Like, I'm not his customer. But in essence, the fees I've paid Bob, Bob has in turn paid something to Paul, and it is
Yeah.
Paul's stamp, and I did include it, and I think the board's wise. I mean, like I said, I won't use, and again, I just found out about Neil last week when Dick and I spoke, but I would never use another soils evaluator without having the license. It's just too complicated. But for Dick getting involved, feeling like, hey, I could have been in a situation like this, so I'm grateful to him and the board. But you know, it's just a little bit of a nightmare because you go back to the guy with the license and he's like, you're not my customer.
Again, it would put the board in a funny spot because he is the engineer that we're dealing with. That's the stamp that we approve. That's the design. It's his design that we approve. So we should learn from it, and it's the pain that you suffered through and I suffered through. That it was just, as I was going through this, and my wife was saying, "Why are you doing this?" And it really does come out to say that it's only because the I think all of us on the board say, "Boy, it's only for the grace of God that we're not going through it ourselves, but to try to help when we help. We do try to help people."
Yeah, no, I see that, and I've said that to you. Like I said, I'm in Pelham now. I've been on the planning board for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of boards that just are indifferent. But as I said, Dick, I'm grateful for you to gather it up, and I think you're on the right track because these sanitation engineers who hold the license from the Commonwealth really are the ultimate um, folks that you guys want to deal with. These other guys like poor Bob and his health and everything else. It just, it leaves me in a bad situation because there is no license to go back to the state and say, complain and say, this is my experience with, using so and so.
Okay. So it sounds like you're set, Pete. You can get your stuff done.
Okay. I just need to get a trench permit. That's one thing I overlooked.
Colleen, deal with Colleen tomorrow. Give her a call. They're
Okay.
free. All you have to do is ask her for it.
Okay. I'll do that.
Okay?
Okay.
Have
Okay,
a good night.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, take it easy.
The next one we have is Western Builders complaint of trash for Cumberland Farms, the dumpsters. Colleen, you sent a note out. Uh, do we know if he reached out to Cumbies?
He did. He did. I don't know. I haven't heard anything else. Um, but I could check with them if you want. But
still on one of your, or whatever, one of you guys driving by at some point, could you just look and see if that really is a mess that's flowing around down there at Cumbie?
I can do that. I can do that, Dick.
They,
Oh, Colleen, how did you make out with the 413 waste can guy? Did you call him up?
Well, that's not actually who put those dumpsters there. The Ed Oz, uh, Ed Oz, they are the ones that are right next to this fellow's property at 8 West 8th Street. And so I talked to them, and they were going out to make sure that the dumpsters were at least 10 feet away from the property line, which is like the state code or whatever. So yeah, I guess they kind of have ongoing disputes with the neighbor.
Yeah. So if it's 10 feet away and the wind's blowing from the west and the dumpster's open and it's got trash in it, I guess it's okay then.
So she said, most of what's in there is construction stuff from their business. It's not tons of trash, but I did talk to them about that. So, and I haven't heard anything.
Maybe it's simple enough, Colleen, that if they did some good housekeeping and closed the cover when they weren't dumping into it, then emptied it when it was full, there'd be no problem.
Yeah, she said it does get emptied regularly. So,
Okay. Thanks for following
Next
up on
one
that.
is,
Sure.
It looks like the chateau has got there must be some kind of a little war besides the one we're looking at the chateau. I had seen something in the mail that Colleen sent out saying they weren't going to be selling sheds down there. And then the next morning I drove by and the whole place was filled with sheds.
I thought it was Skip Shed. There's about 20 sheds out there right now, Dick. There's plenty of sheds there, believe me.
So those sheds look like they're the building inspector's problem, but I did stop by and looked at the food shed, and they've got it looks to me like a permanent kind, like a shed, I guess, but it's sitting on some kind of wooden supports. They're probably not concrete foundations, but they're piles of boards or something, but it's certainly not a food truck. And it's definitely got a hard wire. They've got a telephone pole that goes out from the building, the main chateau, and it looks like a dedicated post. Then it's got a cable that comes down the post and goes along the ground and then connects to a box, a hardwired box on the side. Definitely it's got menus on it. And when I thought the first time I think there was one picnic table in the front, but now that there are several of them in the back. And what do you think? What should we be doing with this one?
Well, in general, Dick, we've invited the owners to come to the conservation meeting Wednesday night. So we're going to interview them regarding all the sheds and their proximity to the wetland. So now, while they're at the conservation meeting, Dick, do you want me to ask them any particular questions regarding the food shed?
We should find out can you tell them stuff as a Board of Health member when you're at the Conservation Commission, or do you try to keep it?
Well, I think I can suggest things. I don't think I can order anything, but I can suggest things as a Board of Health member at the conservation meeting.
Well, at the minimum, I guess they would need a license from us, huh?
Okay, so I'll advise them to call Colleen. That's all. That's simple enough. I can do that.
And Colleen, I- my suggestion is that you tell them that they can't operate without a license.
Yep.
But I certainly didn't see any water, and I didn't see any sewage. I didn't see, I didn't see any bug control or really anything. It was a shed that was being used. I have no idea how they're cooking. So, so I would guess they would need something with Lynn. They'd have to get drawings into us, the materials of construction, layouts, and
Mhm.
water sources. They must need, it's a fixed building, so I would guess they would need the sinks, and I would get, it's certainly not a food truck.
Hmm.
No. Yeah, no permit, safe surf, hand washing, et
Mm-mm.
cetera. They could be running back and forth to the chateau, but certainly, not quite what code allows.
The Red Fire is, we got two things from Red Fire Farm here. That, Colleen, you've got a letter from the neighbor, you've got odors. Bill, are you still on top of that?
Yeah, the Red Fire Farm. I have not been out there since my last site visit, Dick.
Okay.
Do you want me to go out there again and make sure that they've put an enhanced tarp over the facility? I can do that.
Yeah, did you look at the letter, the April 1st letter that Colleen sent out? Maybe you
I
could look
did.
at that and then take a swing by.
Okay.
I don't know what else is happening on Red Fire. I can tell you I went out for a perk test that they're apparently building on the Harold Lyman property.
Right.
They're building a new barn and gonna rebuild a house.
Yeah,
And
I advised them to come to have they approached you, Colleen, about getting a permit?
No.
Okay, because conservation met with him, Dick, 2 months ago. I think it was early March. We met with him quite a while ago, maybe even February. I said, listen, to streamline your permitting, you should probably try to get all your permits concurrently. So I said, go to planning, you're working with conservation, go to Board of Health. They're gonna need a well, I'm guessing, and they're gonna need a septic system because they've got a little a vendor facility going on there. They're gonna sell
yeah,
food stuff, Dick.
yeah, that's what it sounded like. And Alan told me during the perk that they had an engineer and they got rid of the engineer, and then Alan went through. Alan gave me a call and said, it looks like I'm either getting fired or I'm going to quit because they don't have enough space to put their septic system in, and
Oh,
they
see, I didn't
apparently
see.
what
That's
they've
news.
done is they've put the land before laying out their property and
Yeah,
figuring
they
out
put it in
what they wanted to
61A.
do.
I know
They
that.
went and maximized what they could get from the state for
That's
aid.
right. That's right.
And so they didn't leave enough room to do what they want to do.
That's right.
Now
Yeah.
they're saying, well, we've got this is what's left. We want you guys to figure out how you're going to make this work. And so it's definitely up in the air. And my understanding from the newspapers is that they got caught in must little maneuvers that are, getting rid of aid and
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Another
so
little backstory. is they hired two faculty members that are architects, one from Mount Holyoke, one from UMass. So they had these two architects doing the landscape architecture and the building architecture and all that. I guess subsequently they fired them as well. And they've got Berkshire Design doing the site design. They got Jeff Squire from Berkshire Design, who I've worked with. Jeff's good. So I didn't realize they had Al Weiss doing the septic design. But we're still going to, again, the commission has to have a peer review at the very least, or a thorough on-site investigation as to where the wetland is on that property.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think they cut their own throats, Dick. They either APR'd the property or did 61A, but you're absolutely right. They took land, got money from the state as compensation. Now they wish they had some of that land back.
Yeah, well, what happens if you say, gee, I'm going to try to get as much money as I can, instead of saying, let's do this, like you just said, before you start, figure out what you're going to do, instead of doing just like Musk did, ready, fire, aim, or whatever.
That's right. Oh,
So-
my goodness. But you're right. I think he's part of that federal lawsuit against the Doge boys. So again, I don't even want to go there.
Okay, we've got, we have, let's see, the Town of Granby goals for boards, committees, and departments. Have you guys looked at that or thought about it? So we're
On another conservation point, Dick, we've actually come up with a plan on the conservation end. I don't know if it's attainable, but it's to digitize our files. I don't know if it will ever be done, but that's the plan. Be nice to have. But again, who's going to do it?
I don't know. Although part of the shared resources that program is to do that. So if I were just to look at goals that we had, implementing the shared resources plan with what we call it, the Northampton district. And I don't even know if maybe implementing isn't a good enough thing, because we haven't formulated what we'd like that to be. If I were Lee and Bill, if I were to just say, hey, let's implement that, I would guess you guys, after a week or so, it would be coming back saying, mean implement that. Are we going to try to replace perk test, replace, whatever it is, it seems like the first thing we ought to do is formulate our desires for what we want to use it.
Yeah.
Another plan would be that I would see would be to and these are loose words, not fancy words to go on this document, would be to see how we're going to fit into a new facility.
Yeah, what's the status of moving to the West Street School? Is that still on, or is it off, or is it what's
That's
going
me,
on?
the town meeting tomorrow night.
Well, that's the big meeting tomorrow night. Okay.
Yeah, they want $15 million. And it,
From whom?
well, from the town, but it's, again, I'm concerned with going and being the bad guy that but it looks to me like we haven't done it's a backwards kind of thing. It's like here we've got this building and saying, what can we come up with for a plan instead of saying, what is it that we need to do and does this building happen to fit it? And my guess would
So
be,
tomorrow night, they're gonna vote to appropriate a sum of money. And I'm guessing it's gonna be some sort of bond. So it's gonna be it's gonna be over 30 years or 50 years.
but $15 million and they don't have they don't have they don't have designs. They don't have, that's my understanding. They don't have the real facts. That's how it grew from 5 million to 15 million.
And I believe that's for roughly half the square footage
Yeah.
of
But
that
if
building.
you,
So it's not-
certainly if
not the
you
whole pro-
looked at something that says, well, the desired future state would be to have a building that would, let's say a building with a life of 100 years that's energy independent and, provides the square footage for this, and this. I would guess that's not starting off with a 150-year-old building isn't the way you get to that goal.
Dick, is the building habitable at this point in time, or is it not habitable?
I guess if you say are people and bears walking through there and is the rain falling down in there, I guess that isn't happening. Is there a furnace that heats it? Probably. Is there electricity in there?
Yeah, I'm wondering, why do we have to spend all this money on a complete upgrade? Why don't we just go in there piecemeal and see how it goes and spend money incrementally?
Right.
That's
That's
another
what I'm
way to
saying.
approach it.
When you look at this thing, instead of going through and say, let's do a comparison and say, here's the way we're going to spend money over time. What's the best way to do it? How does aid fit in there? In some case, maybe you get a lot of aid by doing it all at once and you get none doing it the other. But when it's all done, and if you look at something that says, should we be doing solar panels on this thing? Should we be, doing all sorts of alternate energy stuff and say, what's the payback on all of this stuff? And that should be a big book.
You know what I would do? If they sell the 10 West State Street building, how much can they get for that building?
I don't know. They said if you don't do something with it, it's going to cost. I think Colleen sent us something. It was like $2.5 million to tear it down.
Oh, that's West Street. No, I said 10 West State. What the senior center building? Say we sell that. Say we sell that.
Yeah.
What can we get for that building?
I don't know.
Say we get $1 million for that, Dick. Say we can get $1 million for that, and then we save. Well, the amount we save on the phone company building is minuscule. But say we get $1 million or $1.5 million for the senior center building. Take that money and whatever we can get for $1.5 million, use that for upgrades of 10 West Street School, and see how that goes. That way we spend no new money at all, zero.
Yeah.
What are we going to get?
I don't know, but
We'll probably get a few windows and maybe an upgraded electrical system.
Well, it's happening tomorrow night, and it's a sizable. I think it says a $350,000 home will end up paying $500 a year more in taxes. So what do we do with this thing, this objectives? And Colleen, do you know when it's due?
She said, I think she just said as soon as you can, as soon as you can.
Yeah, I think this was put together by Crystal. Crystal's the one that initiated this, Dick. It's a nice thing to have. I don't know if it's
It tells
really going to
you,
accomplish a whole heck of a lot, but it's a nice thing to do.
well, what it does is it says at the end of a year or 2 years or 5 years, you've done something different. You've made it that, your board has advanced something. It's moved forward.
Right.
Things that the board does deal with, that certainly we should be probably looking at how maybe we can think about it before the next meeting. Colleen, you can put it on, but the things we kind of deal with, we should be looking at something with wells, something with sewage, something with probably health of the community. We
We don't want to get involved with vaccinations, do we, Dick?
I don't think so, but you could do it through, if that's what we came up with, that maybe it's a senior program to do that some kind of senior outreach program through Northampton. And certainly we know the state has got as a priority and a philosophy is that we're going to do these community areas, these shared Board of Health areas. So that could sit in there. And then you get, Bill, when you talk about records, that certainly Board of Health records ought to be, and the things that we deal with, that people care about, is the sewer, the well, the health, vaccinations, those things. There's a
Well,
fair.
the reason is they've got that measles outbreak in Texas. Again, I don't know how large that's going to get, but I'm guessing RFK Jr. is not promoting measles vaccines. So the question is, what percentage of students in the Granby system have their MMR vaccinations? And Lee, you probably know this.
That type of data, I'm not privy to.
Well, the board should be privy to this, Dick.
I know. If you look at it, Bill, it's not just that. If you really start looking at the vaccinations in general, we should know that. We should be posting that kind of thing. How many seniors or people above 50 have been vaccinated against shingles? The things the communicable diseases that we could be doing something about, and say, gee, that there's a problem. Only half of the kids have had measles vaccine. That would seem, Colleen, if you could just kind of jot down what we just said, and next week, next meeting, let's see if we can, at some point, does this board need to be looking at a health agent? If it's not a health agent, we certainly have to look at how Northampton could be supplying something that we got 3 old guys and a kind of a more than at least a middle-aged helper here with us, an assistant that with a lot of experience and a lot of skills, but all of a sudden that's going to disappear and we're not going to be in a good spot.
Dick, that fellow that's running for the board against me, Abbott, that physician, how old is he?
I don't know. Do you know if in fact he is actually, did he turn in the paper? Colleen said yes.
Yeah, I talked to Kathy. He turned in papers, and the fellow, there's 3 people running. It's gonna be a
You better.
three-person race. Yeah.
Mhm.
Holy mackerel.
It's
All
probably
or
gonna be a
nothing.
competitive race, Dick. I may not win.
Wow.
Let's get,
I think,
let's get those signs out.
Yeah. But this Abbott guy, Lee, do you know how old he is?
I would say mid-50-ish. I think mid-50s.
Hmm.
I've been our old neighbor.
Yeah,
Oh my God, tell, he has nothing to worry about. Tell
they can hear you. Thank you,
Okay.
Nancy.
Oh, hi, Nancy. Thanks, Nan. Thank you, Nancy.
I can't, okay, I can't even go there, but don't you worry, you're gonna make it. Woo-hoo!
yeah,
Thanks,
I wonder
thanks,
what
Nan.
Colleen, do you have any ideas? Is the reason the gravel pit, is that what these two people are going for? Do you have any ideas?
No, I don't. I don't know why. No.
But you're right. One guy lives in Joe Mayhew's old house. So I'm guessing it's gravel pit related.
Yeah, and I wonder
But
where the
again,
other person comes from.
I don't know. His wife ran for the planning board a few years ago, and I think she got elected, didn't she, Lee?
That's my understanding. Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
she serves on the board still.
Mhm.
Okay. So she's
Huh.
on the
At
planning
some
board.
point in time, when we're not being recorded, I will spend a little free time. I have a history with that candidate.
Oh, and I'll help them too. I'll tell you, I'll help them too. I'll help you.
It's not a good history, but we'll chat.
Yeah, be
Okay,
very,
we need,
very careful. Be careful that when you do it, Lee, that we don't end up crossing over into the, conflict of interest and open meeting law violation. So just make sure that you don't do that.
Something to do with my granddaughter and my son.
Yeah.
And those are two topics that I take very seriously.
Oh, thanks. Okay. So
As we all would.
are we done? Are we done for tonight?
Just a quick question, please. And
you can see the cat wants to eat.
Yeah.
there was two problem locations in town. 1210 Lane, I think, is done, which is great. I'm glad that Diane is moving forward. Alan's doing a good job on the system. My other concern is with 16 East Street.
That's right.
I spoke to Neil about the possible installation date. There is not one.
Oh,
I reminded Neil that his operating permit is coming up due shortly. I don't remember how many months. I think we're approaching the year, maybe more, that we have been waiting for something to happen. I don't know if we see the town attorney in case the year comes, the June 1st, June 30 date comes up and nothing's been accomplished. Are we prepared to, and this is nothing personal, this is just procedural. Are we going to ask him to turn the key in and not open the place? And if he does open it, what do we do? I don't know how much rope we give business to continue on without reciprocating our good nature.
my feeling is we should try not to have that happen. And that the best way to do it, maybe the easiest way, is to ask Colleen to make a phone call.
Colleen did that, and it wasn't a pleasant phone call.
Is that right, Colleen? You did not make headway.
Well, he said talk to Neil and Neil could get back to the board, but he, yeah. I don't,
I don't know what to do at this point. And again, it's not my battle. It's,
Well, it's not, it's a
It-
board battle right now. Colleen, maybe we can at least send a letter out and Neil isn't the guy that makes business decisions for that business. But
mhm.
that Colin, maybe we just send a letter out saying, we want you to be, dear Jim, we'd like this opportunity to remind you that your operating permit for whatever, for the wine house is good only to whatever it is, the 1st of June.
June, or, yeah.
The board granted that permit or decided on that permit restriction. It's not a restriction, right? Decided on that date to allow you adequate time to install the septic tank portion of your required septic system. Please be advised that the board does not intend to grant an extension to this permit without a signed agreement on the installation timetable for the required system. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
That's good.
Sure.
We
Yeah,
should
I
send
mean,
out one registered letter, Colleen,
Okay,
please. Now, for this letter, if it goes out like that, are we gonna let Colleen sign it? So if Colleen sends the letter to me and says, is that what you dictated? And if it is, we just let her sign it for us,
Yes.
Yes, please.
please?
okay,
Okay.
Yes.
So that's what
Yep.
we'll do, Colleen, so we don't lose 2 weeks.
all right.
Is there anything
Now-
coming up procedurally, as far as the regulations, for for the next 2-week meeting that, we should take a little bit of, one topic for me, one topic for Bill, one topic for you, Dick, or are we just gonna go as we go?
Yeah, instead, can we break them up? Can we look at and say, if we look at those pages
Yeah.
and instead of going through it, each one of them all of us do each one and we get not very far.
Or even
I've
if,
got-
you or Bill, you know, wanna, between meetings, pick something around and throw out some emails and just say, you know, I'd like you to look at this, I'd like me to look at that, whatever. Just to try to help out, to,
I'll go through a couple of them. I'll send them to Colleen and ask Colleen to send them out.
yeah,
And,
I know it's a big undertaking, for sure.
let's see if I can get 3 of them done. And I'll just do it and Colleen can send them out for discussion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then
I'll do 3 of them and
yeah, and then prior to the meeting, we'll already be, read through it,
yeah,
jot down some questions, comments, and then, you know, push through it.
because some of them, for instance, if they're already in Title V, we can just say it's already in Title V. We don't even have to discuss it.
Sure, yeah, good point.
Okay?
Excellent.
Yep, very
Then
good.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good
Okay.
night.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
guys.
folks.
All the best. Yeah,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Yeah, thank you.